Vancouver. I don't know why I'm laughing. I don't even know why I'm laughing this one. That's why some people are always angry with me, like, oh, have you done? She's always just laughing in her video. But anyway, this is exclusive coming from People's Gazette, and it says Bola Tinubu pays US lobbyists $2.7 million to help burnish image destroyed by drug dealing, certificate forgery scandals, and all of that. The only thing I'm going to say is that these lobbyists, honestly, they were actually very cheap. For them to collect just $2.7 million, $2.7 million, I would have expected them to be collecting nothing less than $5 million, because really, the image is not imaging at all. The image is really down. I've seen certificate forgery, drug dealing, only one person, only one human being, all of that attachment. That's the illegitimate president that you people have, and you are calling that you have president. Oh my show, Nigeria. No. Nigeria carried last. An aide said the Nigerian leader engaged PR firms after evaluating the impact widespread coverage of his narcotics and diploma mess had on his prestige before his foreign peers. And I'm sure and I'm sure you've seen several times, several videos of Tinubu when he's amongst, world leaders, democratically elected world leaders, not the ones that rigged their way into office, not the ones that did the civilian coup, those that were democratically elected. You always see him, he's at odds. He never feels at place. They're either pushing him to one side, or you see him in one corner. You literally can see the fact that he is lost. So that's why for me, I'm looking at this and I'm not so, it's not surprising. There are certain things that you see somebody when they say, no, that thing, how can it didn't happen? Now, this one more than happened. Because you can see literally there's no legitimacy beyond the fact that Tinubu has issue of narcotics, issue of certificate forgery. It's also the issue of legitimacy. Literally, people know how their election went. Even if people will be diplomatic and wanting to be, how do they say that, diplomatically correct, wanting to say the right thing, not say the wrong thing. At the end of the day, everybody knows that this election you didn't win it, guy, you rigged it, because the rigging was so brazen in the manner that it was done. It wasn't done with finesse. It wasn't done in a more sophisticated way. It was done in a very crude way that showed to the whole world that, hey, it was rigged, and all of that. So there's also that issue. But let me come to what People's Gazette, have said. They said Bola Tinubu has hired lobbyists in the United States to help convince lawmakers and policy makers that he carries acceptable personal probity to lead Nigeria. People's Gazette can report, after suffering a reputational hit that followed reports of his involvement in illicit drug peddling and certificate fraud. So this is the thing. A lot of these world leaders, they are fighting drug dealers, they're fighting criminals, they are fighting people who are doing the wrong thing, and then someone is standing on the table with them that is doing the wrong thing. Or that has done this, or is still doing it, or whatever. I ain't going to. Mr. Tinubu engaged public relations experts, including David Spalding of Lenap Legal, based in the sleepy Philadelphia suburb, to help his administration navigate Washington's concern about his unsavory public profile. The Gazette learned via documents and sources familiar. And so, like I said, no, people don't want to relate. I mean, there are certain things you don't want to stain your white, and Tinubu is stained. So anywhere you are going, you shall be moving, you shall be fighting your levels, because you don't want your white to be stained. The Nigerian leaders deemed the hirings necessary after evaluating the impact widespread coverage of his narcotics and certificate saga had on his prestige before his foreign counterparts. A senior administration official said under anonymity to discuss the president's key vulnerability. Mr. Spalding's firm indicated it started work in April 2024, a few months after Nigerians' interest in the scandal peaked and the Supreme Court said it was insufficient to truncate Mr. Tinubu's nascent tenure. The president feels that the bad stories are impeding his ability to govern, the official at the Justice Ministry said. Look, I mean, some of us know they look down on him like a pariah, which is unfair. I hope I got that word right, pariah. Which is unfair. If you see those pictures, if you've ever watched Tinubu in the midst of, he's just like that unwanted person in a room that shouldn't be in a room, that is not supposed to be in a room. It really shows. Mr. Tinubu has attended summits of global leaders in France, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia, among others, but those invitations were largely statutory for Nigeria as Africa's most populous and largest economy. What Mr. Tinubu really wanted, the 8th day, was to be given special foreign policy concessions similar to how Nigeria scored big under former presidents Olusegun Obasanjo and Goodluck Jonathan. His attempt to flex international muscle months after assuming office ended in humiliation after the Emiratis repudiated key prongs of an agreement he purportedly locked in following a meeting in Abu Dhabi in September 2023. And of course, you've seen a lot of times where they've come out in desperation to lie about certain agreements that they've made and all of that, only for the people that they say they made those agreements to come out and say, nah, we didn't make those agreements. You know, propaganda, you can't govern with propaganda. I mean, I don't know how somebody can say this enough. You cannot govern with propaganda. The Nigerian economy has trended rapidly downward since Mr. Tinubu's inauguration in May 2023, and critics says he overfilled his cabinet with corrupt and incompetent politicians with limited contacts outside Nigeria. Atiku Bagudu, infamous for helping former dictator Sani Abacha launder billions in stolen funds in the 1990s, and Yesufu, a lifelong alcoholic who did not flinch from the label, are running and debasing key ministries, departments, and agencies. Another shady minister, Uche Nanji, has remained in Mr. Tinubu's cabinet more than 6 months after the Gazette exposed how he forged the National Youth Service certificate he submitted to the Nigerian Senate to skill confirmation. I mean, forgery is a thing now. the guy at the top is forged. So who else will not, forge? But administration officials readily dismissed opposition attacks that the president was bleeding credibility, relying on not just his foreign trips, but also the quality of foreign leaders he had entertained in the State House, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You know what happened with the Indian Prime Minister now when they say Wike was drunk and, almost sort of like hit him. That's the reports that are out there. Sort of pushed him when he was trying to walk by. The Justice Ministry official said the Tinubu followed advice to reconstruct his image with members of the U.S. House of Representatives, senators, and White House officials. The official added that the contract, some of which were signed for the government of Nigeria to obscure Mr. Tinubu's personal stake, will satisfy the chores. The Gazette was told that Mr. Tinubu was still furious over the role of the Nigerian media and opposition leader Atiku Abubakar in fragmenting the charges and spreading them across Nigeria and beyond. The allegations, while substantially factual, were by themselves not entirely new, but their discussion has been largely restricted to online chatbots and idiosyncratic spotlights on social media platforms for several years until Mr. Abubakar sought to use them to blunt Mr. Tinubu's appeal ahead of the 2023 elections. After Mr. Tinubu was declared winner, Mr. Abubakar's legal team prioritized factual elements of the claims while litigating the vote outcome before the Election Petitions Tribunal and ultimately the Supreme Court. Mr. Tinubu's involvement in the cocaine business, which he still denies, despite U.S. law enforcement's account, had suffered Nigerian political cycles and commentaries since he first forfeited about $500,000 to the U.S. government in 1993. However, the general public's understanding of the case did not come until November 2022, when the Gazette was the first to publish the entire case file PDF as certified and released by the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois in Chicago. This is a whole... Oh my goodness. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here. Otherwise, this video is going to be like 20 minutes long. But anyway, this is it. Can you imagine what Nigeria is reduced to at this level? And it's really sad. Thank you for watching.